In today's video, I'm going to look at pictures and some text talking about the Chunnel. Because in a previous video, I mentioned that even something like the Chunnel, which is supposedly built, I think in the 80s, I don't know, maybe we'll see, breakthrough on the 90s. So, I mean, they were building it in the 80s. Something as recent as this could be something ancient that they've just now got around to finally digging out the mud, refurbishing it, however you want to think of it. But I think that the Chunnel is nothing new. I think that tunnels between mainland England and France has probably been a thing in the past. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. Every worker, it seems, was wearing orange. I couldn't even read this article. It was behind a paywall, but here's some cool historical pictures. And so, of course, what they'll say is that all of these historical accounts are just people dreaming of the possibility of one day. And they'll say that there were just different ideas proposed. But I would say that maybe this is a thing that has existed in multiple forms in the past. And who knows how many times this same channel tunnel has been rebuilt or modified a little bit. But I don't think that it is anything new, personally. So the next few slides are just going through of what they say the historical account is. Oh, it was a proposed carriage thing. I think that the first society that built this probably was beyond carriage technology. So I think already here we're seeing some reset type ideas where these people know that there's a tunnel and they're proposing to dig it out and use it as a way to ferry things across. I mean, I guess you're not ferrying at that point. It's just an underground tunnel. And they were going to use the tech that they had at the time, carriages. But I think that this is already looking at like reset. And the 1800s, so fishy. But yeah, it's interesting that 1984, the early projects, I do 100% believe that we're still digging stuff out of the mud. I mean, there's still temples out in rainforests that have just been totally overgrown, that they've never been dug out of the mud at this point. There's still stuff to be found. That's one of the things that one of the main narratives of this place is, well, on one hand, they want you to think that there's stuff out there to be discovered, but not you. You got to be special. You got to become an astronaut. You got to become Indiana Jones. They don't want you knowing that the very town that you grew up in might have ancient ruins in it. Kind of reminds me of Wizard of Oz, how it's really at your feet the whole time. What a very advanced looking map. They were very good at making maps, because I think they were highly advanced, and balloons come into this. I have a really cool balloon picture later. So these are the kind of fake historical figures they give us. Oftentimes, they straight up use dead people and you know how they tell us that they posed dead people for the camera? A lot of old historical figures, they straight up look dead. Like they already look dead in... This could easily be some dead dude that they posed up for the camera. And I think that they would change their outfit, put on a different piece of clothing that was left over from the last reset, and take a photo, change his name, say, oh, that guy designed this building. Okay, change the outfit, pose him a little different, take his picture. This guy designed those buildings over there. That's how I think they rewrite history. The advent of steam trains. 30 years working on 7 different designs. Some suspicious numbers going on there. Probably just completely fabricated history. What a grand palace this is, wherever that is. Queen Victoria and Napoleon III approved the proposed undersea tunnel design. Was Napoleon even a real person? I don't know. Maybe. I think sometimes this stuff is old historical things, and they take the pictures and they change the names a little bit, and they rewrite the story as their own. I don't know what to think about stuff like Napoleon. Was Napoleon a real guy? Did Napoleon already have the Chunnel at some point? French Revolution stuff. Who knows? I think unraveling history would be really interesting. But I think a lot of times what they would do is they would take old documents that may be ancient and they pretend it happened last week. Cool technology. Like if somebody had technology like this already, I feel like they could have done the tunnel. 1880, a Beaumont and English tunnel boring machine. This to me looks like right after the reset, trying to get the steam powered technology. Maybe it was the Tartarian Empire. I don't know. I don't buy into that in the name. I don't like the name. I just personally think of all roads lead to Rome, and how that represents the idea that, and so maybe it was Rome and like biblical Rome, Caesar times. I mean, Caesar was able to tax the entire world during Jesus's time. So it could have even been before Rome that there was advanced technology, like steam technology and stuff. I don't know exactly what time periods, what technologies fit into place, but steam power technology, I think, is a really advanced civilization. They got to the point where they decided that, like, this is the way to do things. Steam powered, cast iron type machinery that lasts for ages and is clean. And I think that they tell us a lie about if it doesn't have a computer chip in it, then it's not advanced. Like, this looks slightly different than this kind of thing. So, airplanes, man, that's a big thing with the whole blimps. I mean, to get into the Hindenburg, I believe, was a psyop specifically created to cut out lighter than air airship technology from the masses. And I think it's a perfect example of how what is technology? It's like hidden knowledge that those in control allow us access to. That's what technology is, basically. And during certain eras, they allow the airships to be like a thing, a big common thing. And for this reset, for whatever reasons they have, they decided no airships, and they performed the big Hindenburg psyop. 37. Didn't we just see 30 and 7 happening? So I've already said a lot. Look at this old world building. That is cool. The project of the construction and operations of a railway tunnel under the Channel is finally launched in 1973. This took a long time. So in my opinion, the Chunnel is actually a pretty cool example of something that probably was historical and ancient, that it took until modern times, what we think of as modern times, for them to dig this one out. And just think of all the hundreds of miles of tunnel that have never been searched at this point, and just nobody ever goes there, and how the heck did that stuff get built? So many good questions. So yeah, I believe the Chunnel, they just didn't really get around to it until the 70s. They had other things going on. I guess in the 70s they tried to do it, but then they stopped. In the 80s is when they finally, France and the UK or whatever, decided to do it. Here's some key dates. Look at this picture. Super cool. Fantasy or reality? What are those weird kite things? Strange and unusual. Are those like people suspended on the on? It's like kite paratroopers or something. Wacky. Interesting. Very interesting. Now these remind me of, man, like the filigree type. What was the empire? What was the Golden Empire making that like made the American currency type filigree? And there's just this style is really, it has a unique charm to it. Right around the time of a reset. seemingly advanced for what we're supposed to think of these people. Like, man, if media was this good today, it's usually cheap and forgettable, but this stuff is so cool. I've already said a lot. The Channel Tunnel taking soundings on board the Ajax. Here's a compressed air drilling machine used for the tunnel in 1882. So it's a strange history of, like, they worked on it, I guess, and they accomplished stuff, but then what? It wasn't until the 80s that I personally think that the Chunnel has existed in times past, and it's been built. Maybe it's been built in multiple ways through multiple resets in times past, but they take this old historical stuff and they show it off like it's their idea. They show it off like they did this, or that it's just, oh, this is just a fantasy that people were having ages ago. Instead of like, oh yeah, the Chunnel really was already built. It's just that there was a mud flood at some point. It fills up with sediment, and now you gotta dig everything out again. Compressed air drilling machine, Pneumatic. Something about Brave New World talks about Pneumatic all the time. Steam power. Cities run, all the biggest cities, New York City and stuff, they have, I mean, I've mentioned this before, boiler rooms are a huge part of old world technology. Any university that has an old worldness to it, I guarantee that there's boiler rooms for these universities. This was a cool document. A memoir. Tunnel sous-marin. Cover of the memoir on the plans of the new project of an underwater tunnel. 1867. Did it really take over 100 years for... And this is a World Exposition thing. And I think the World Expositions, I think most people have come to the consensus that it was a bizarre time period right around a reset, before a reset, I don't know, after a reset. Are there people out there trying to put those pieces together? And it's where they were showing off everything that's to be inherited or to be, or the texts that they just stumbled onto, or that, I don't know, I don't know if the pieces have fully been put together on this. But what a strange time period. And so many things pop up, I guess is the point, about all these world expositions with moving sidewalks and powerful telescopes and people saying, I built that, left and right. All sorts of detailed schematics in people's private collections. These are pretty cool. I've already said a lot. When is this from? A visit to the Channel Tunnel. Certainly before the 1980s. I don't know. These were cool. These were historical too. And this is mostly just an introductory thing. I wasn't really diving into the details a lot. I just wanted to show some cool pictures and just present the idea of even something that we think of as being a modern marvel. It's very possible that this has existed in the past and they're just now getting around to refurbishing it to the point of use. The tunnel is defended by existing works. I thought this was a really interesting one, that there were already defensive structures put in place, and that doesn't seem like something that you would do like first before you even have a tunnel built. Why would you have defenses for something that isn't going to be built for 100 years? That seems odd. But so many of these fortifications, people are realizing, hey, I don't think history makes sense about that fortification. I'm just going to really fly through these. I've already said a lot. Illumination is a key word. Suez Canal, that's a fishy one. There are so many canals, all those locks, the crazy Panama Canal. I think they just had to get it working again. I don't think that it was being built. I think that they were getting it up and running again. 9 times out of 10, any big project like that, I mean, probably more than all of those the big cities, the big canals, how you look at them and you're like, man, it's not like a natural river. This is like they've built up. Like, all of this is built up. When and how did all of that happen? Winston Churchill got involved. There were concerns of invasion through the Chunnel. This was kind of a cool idea at the bottom here. The engineers had addressed the concerns of both nations' military leaders by designing 2 sumps, one near the coast of each country, that could be flooded at will to block the tunnel. That almost seems like something that maybe existed in the past, like an agreement between England and France. Like, we both need a way to agree that we could potentially flood our side so that we're not susceptible to invasion that way. That almost seems like something that would happen in ye olden times, and has Tale of Two Cities vibes going on. So I'm basically done. Today I'm not going to read from Jeremiah, but I'll probably continue with that. I just think a lot about Ecclesiastes, and I take this very seriously. I think that when Solomon said this, he was being truthful. Have you seen all the weird sigils involved with Solomon? How much of sigil stuff has to do with computer technology? And you know how all the old cities like Washington, D.C. and the layouts and the Vatican, the layout of the Vatican, it looks like computer tech. As above, so below. Part of the as above, so below is like this idea of seeing repetition. You know how if you zoom in on a fractal, it like starts to repeat itself? Life is kind of like that, where you like zoom in and a cell kind of looks like a factory on a bigger scale. But cities look like computer chips. Like, clearly there existed a society in the past that understood computers, and they built crazy masonry buildings to stand the test of time that resembled circuitry. And so I think that nothing is new. I think computers already existed in Solomon's time. Maybe they were a passé thing by then. Oh, computers? You mean the things that we use to automate our systems? And I think that there's been golden ages where they were beyond this. Look at how sick people are of tech, and they're ready to go back to nature. How long have we had the internet, and people are already saying it's a bad idea for the most part, and propaganda is out of control like never before. And you know, I'm not here to bash it, because there are some positives, but I'm just saying I know that people are blinded. This is why they say blinded by science, blinded by technology. They're not able to consider that it's nothing new. It's magic to them, so they'll believe any story. That whoever's handing them the magic, they'll believe whatever story they say. And so they would never consider that people in the past have had this stuff before and they're being lied to about it. Well, anyways, I've said enough. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. God bless everyone.